So now that the tomb has released, I thought I would do a review on the map and an overall review of where we are currently at with Black Ops 6 Zombies. Is it in a good state? Is it where we expect it to be, knowing the history of this game and its 4-year development cycle, and how good of a start it got off to? I think most people can admit the beginning of Black Ops 6 Zombies with Terminus and Liberty Falls was a good enough start, but now that we are halfway through this game's DLC map cycle, we always get 4 DLC Zombies maps, and so far we've got 2, Citadel and the Tomb. Is the game still in a good state, if not better than what it was when it began, or has it gone backwards? With the release of the Tomb, how has this map affected zombies? I don't think I've done a review video for any of the previous maps. I've done ones on Black Ops 6 overall, but I wanted to do one specifically on the Tomb because I think it's put us at a point right now where the community is very mixed, and to be honest, from what I've seen on Twitter and YouTube, there are currently more people going towards the negative end of the spectrum than the positive, with people noticing that the Tomb not only carries on past mistakes such as ridiculous boss spam, no new perks, or well, if you want to count Death Perception as a new perk, at the very least an uninteresting one, not one that anybody asked for, but there's also some good talking points about it as well. So talking about those good points, I'm going to break the video down into 2 sections: the good things about the map, the things I like, and the bad. Now, the few things I do think Treyarch have done well with the Tomb is its atmosphere, and that's when you isolate it into a Black Ops 6 Zombies map, not a Call of Duty Zombies map, when you don't compare it to the other 40 plus Zombies maps that we've had over the past 15-20 years, and you just compare it to modern Zombies maps, I would say from Cold War to now in Black Ops 6. The atmosphere in the Tomb is actually better than a lot of modern Zombies maps. Along with that comes detail. You could say, well, that's also because it's a small and simple map, which it is, and the majority of the space is confined to enclosed areas. So whereas with a big open map, you've got to add detail all into the background, whereas with something like this, you can close off long distances with cave walls, for example. So whilst it's not the most detailed and atmospheric map we've ever had in Zombies, it's nowhere near. For a modern Zombies map, I think Treyarch did a pretty decent job. I will say the wow factor of a Zombies map, and what I mean by that is you load into the game on round 1, you look at your surroundings and you say, wow. For example, Der Eisendrache, as soon as you leave that starting room and you see the castle, you say, okay, this is a crazy looking map. As soon as you leave the starting area in Origins and you look up and see those giant robots, it's impressive, but none of the Black Ops 6 Zombies maps have that wow factor. They don't feel particularly special. The Tomb doesn't have any attributes that make you pause and want to appreciate how beautiful and immersive the map is. It's far from anything special. But it does have a couple of areas which I think, compared to Citadel Daymore, for example, that are quite unique. If you go back to Citadel, the whole map is really just grey and washed, lots of brown colours and greens, which you would expect being a rundown castle, but there are no specific areas on it that you can really appreciate. It's quite a dull looking map, whereas the Tomb does have the Dark Ether Nexus. And I would also say the same for the Temple, where you see these henges. I think this area looks really good as well. Compared to Citadel or Liberty Falls, Terminus did this as well in certain areas, but the Tomb does at least have a couple of locations which really stand out. Even though the Dark Ether Nexus is a cool looking place, one thing I noticed that did make me appreciate older Zombies games was if you just look at the skybox and then compare something like this to the skybox in Revelations, one of them, just in my opinion, looks miles better than the other. And hint, it's not the new one. I don't know about you guys, but the skybox on Black Ops 3 Zombies Revelations, which is 10 years old at this point, Revelations came out 10 years this year in 2015, I think it was, or maybe 2016, but the amount of special effects and animation you see, especially with the Apothicon Sun, and then you compare it to the still image that we have in the Tomb, there are a few moving parts, the rocks circling around, some which are Easter egg related, but the Revelation skybox feels alive, whereas the one in the Tomb does just feel like a still image, which kind of shows how far backwards we've gone. I don't think we've improved in detail in Zombies maps, we've actually regressed. That's not to say the Dark Ether in the Tomb doesn't look good, it still does, but we've seen and had better 10 years ago. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That was supposed to be a positive point. I will also say I quite like the layout of the Tomb. It's simple. The 2 main areas where you're going to train, in my opinion, is either in the Dark Ether or the starting room, but it's not a boring map. The Wonder Weapon, the Ice Staff, when it's upgraded, makes it fun. I would go as far as to say this is the best Wonder Weapon in Black Ops 6 Zombies. Not the standard version, don't get it confused, but when upgraded, it's super powerful. It's really helpful for the main boss Easter egg and slowing down the amalgams, the doppelganger, etc. Plus it's cool. Yes, we've seen the staffs before in Origins, but I prefer to use, and I'm having more fun using, the Ice Staff than the Beam Smasher or the swords in Citadel. The way it looks, the special effects, unlike the Citadel swords, it actually feels like a wonder weapon. The only downside is, well, it's not really anything new. And the final point on my list of good things about the tomb is that it has a boss fight. Is it as good as Patient 13 in Terminus, the rock dude in Citadel? No. Is it better than the Liberty Falls boss fight? Yes. At the end of the day, it's a boss fight. It's difficult. Maybe my standards have just dropped that low that I'm appreciating that we have one in the map, but that's about my final positive. Going on to all of the negative things. One, and this goes for all of Black Ops 6 Zombies, is the boss spam. This has to stop. It's been a complaint of people's for a long time now. In Liberty Falls and Terminus it was a problem. In Citadel it got worse, and now in the tomb it's awful. You can have amalgams, doppelgasts and mimics all chasing you at the exact same time, of course along with zombies as well. And when 2 of those 4 enemies have grab animations, the amalgams and the mimics, enemies that can grab you has to be one of the most annoying features ever in zombies. For me, it breaks up play far too often. Oh, and I forgot to mention you can also have vermin or parasites at the same time as these as well. So you can have like 5 different enemy types on a single round at once, and it's not just one of them. You can have 2 amalgams, even 3. You can have 3 doppelgasts, 5 mimics. And right now I would say it's the thing that's making this game not fun at all. I don't know what Treyarch's thinking is. I don't know what the need is to come up against all of these at once. Why all of these different enemy variations exist in one map, I'm unsure, because back in the day this was never an issue before Black Ops 4. Treyarch clearly want to make it more difficult the higher up in rounds you go, but why not simply just increase the health of the zombies or increase the damage they do? Why do you need to add in 5 other variations of zombies? In Liberty Falls it was 20 manglers at once, in Citadel you had the doppelgasts and the amalgams, and now in the tomb you've got all of that plus the mimics. As soon as I saw this map's trailer and I saw the shot mimic was in it, I knew I was going to have this opinion, but I didn't actually think it would be as bad as it is, because if you've played the tomb, by about round 30, in almost every room there will be a chance that a mimic can spawn. Loot will just be lying around on the map. It's obvious that that loot on the floor is a mimic. So after about round 30, if you run around the map, you pass all of this loot, which turns into mimics, and the more you pass, the more mimics you get. It really does just make you want to stay in one location, or if you see a piece of loot on the floor, just avoid that area entirely so that you're not having to deal with them. Yeah, boss spam is a huge problem for me and has been since the start of this game. Treyarch addressed it in Liberty Falls, they reduced the amount of manglers, but for some reason they haven't learned their lesson in the tomb and have just added in a bunch of really annoying enemies. It doesn't necessarily make it more difficult, just way less fun. Another huge issue I've seen with the tomb, and I noticed this as a content creator, especially focusing on the storyline, is no one's really interested in the story in Black Ops 6 Zombies. And I think 99% of that is due to what Treyarch have done in the past 2 maps. Right now, the storyline that everybody seems to be interested in is the relationship between Richtofen, Maxis and Weaver, Samantha and Weaver killing Richtofen's family, but hardly anything is spoken about it in the tomb. In the intel that you can find, so radios and documents, there is only 1 single radio out of like 15. The rest are from a character called Archibald, which basically just tell you the backstory of the map. It's about 30 minutes worth of audio, and even me, as a person that's super interested in the zombie storyline, every aspect, I was listening to 30 minutes worth of audio, 30 minutes worth of backstory for the tomb, and I almost fell asleep. It was that boring. Whereas the 2-minute radio from Richtofen and Sam, them talking to one another, was more interesting than anything. And I've noticed it's that side of the story what people want to know about, but it's also that side of the story that we're not really getting. In Citadel Day More, I think there was like 2 radios out of 10, 15 that spoke about it. And because Treyarch only briefly touched upon it in the Liberty Falls intro cutscene and through a radio or 2, as they've forgotten about it, I've noticed people have lost interest in this game's storyline. Even me, I want to know what happened between Richtofen, Sam and Weaver, and I can get Treyarch kind of building it up towards a big revelation in DLC 4, but you've got to put some work into it. You've got to give us a reason to want to find out. And it feels like instead what they're doing, or what they've done, is they've introduced the Chaos storyline into it, which, okay, is cool, but Chaos was never interesting to people in the first place. That was the reason why it got dropped in Black Ops 4. People preferred the Ether storyline over the Chaos storyline. So the fact that Treyarch have reintroduced the Chaos storyline in Black Ops 6 is weird in the first place, but okay, I could get with it if it's kind of a side thing, something you learn alongside the real juicy stuff to do with Richtofen, Sam and Weaver. But 95% of what we're learning about in documents and intel is Chaos, and 5% is what we are all actually interested in. And like I said, as a person that stays up to date with this, is looking at what people are interacting with, I'm noticing a huge drop off in interest for this game's storyline. And for me, that's entirely Treyarch's doing. And another thing I've got to say, 3 out of the 4 main cast characters are just boring. We've got Weaver, Carver, Gray, and Maya. No matter if you think Weaver's annoying or not, he's still a super interesting character due to his past connections to Samantha and Richtofen. However, Maya's storyline is over. There's no reason for her to even be with the crew right now. She found her brother in Terminus, he died, and she killed Franco in Citadel de Mor. That was the reason why she joined up with these characters, and now her story is over, so why is she even still with us, other than wanting to tag along and help out? That's not interesting. She's a boring character right now. Carver's always been a boring character. We've known that since Cold War, and, well, Gray isn't that interesting either. As far as the storyline goes, Weaver is the only character worth taking interest in. Of course, you're going to have your own opinions on that, but compared to some of the amazing casts of characters we've had over the years, the Mob of the Dead crew, the Shadows of Evil crew, Primus, Ultimus, the Call of the Dead cast, this cast of characters, Weaver, Carver, Gray, and Maya, are incredibly dull. When you combine that with what we're learning in the story through the intel and documents, people are rapidly losing interest in this game's storyline, and the Tomb's intel or quotes from characters does nothing to revive that. And talking about quotes, the Tomb is a real weird one because there are hardly any new conversations or quotes said by our characters in this map. And the reason for that, I believe anyway, is due to the whole AI controversy. With voice actors being replaced by AI, we know that a lot of original voice actors for this game got cut or left, such as the Samantha voice actor, she was replaced. And it feels like this map has massively suffered from that because by about round 8, you suddenly stop getting quotes, whereas in Citadel you could go up to round 20 and you would hear brand new quotes. Same with Terminus and Liberty Falls, but with the Tomb, by round 8 it's almost like no one wants to talk to you anymore. Along with main characters missing, such as Peck, he's nowhere to be seen in this map, even though he was supposed to have travelled here with us, along with Strauss and Revanov. You don't hear from Peck at all, but when you know the voice actor situation, that could explain it. However, it ruins the map. I think there's like 2 sentences said by Revanov, 2 sentences said by Sam. There's basically no character conversations, no quotes to progress the storyline in the Tomb. I think, or at least I want to believe the excuse is because of what Activision did with the whole AI situation. It's massively affected character conversations on this map. A few other things I've got to mention that have really annoyed me. First off, Death Perception. Why is this perk back again? It's ass. I don't care that it's got augments and you can now add new abilities to it, especially with them giving us Vault Trade in Citadel de Mor, which was a decent perk. There was absolutely no reason for them to then give us Death Perception in this one. The 2 perks are almost identical. Trot could have added in Death Perception through Vault Trade's augments, but they didn't because they knew they were bringing it back in this map. It's a perk no one wanted, it is super pointless, and I think we can all guess what's going to be taking place from this point on. In DLC 3, we're going to be getting a new, branded by Treyarch, but old returning perk. It will probably be Mule Kick, and then in DLC 4, we're going to be getting another new perk, but it won't be new, it's going to be another old returning perk, such as Tombstone or something like that. Who's who? I can't see us getting any more new perks in Black Ops 6, which is super disappointing when the only new perk we have had is Melee Macchiato, and that perk's ass. It's great for Citadel because the wonder weapons are melee weapons, but no one melees in zombies, you just don't. Punching zombies is not your primary or even secondary method of attack, it's your third, your final resort. It's a super ass perk, so for that to be the only actual new one, it's disappointing. At the very least, I think we should have got a Mule Kick before Death Perception. And the final thing I've written down is, well, we were told by Treyarch before the release of the Tomb that this map was going to be more like Liberty Falls. Now, in terms of layout and its size, it's kind of, although Liberty Falls feels bigger. It's only really similar in terms of simplicity, but we were also told this map's going to have a lot of side Easter eggs like Liberty Falls as well. However, the only real proper side Easter egg I've seen is the Golden Armor one, whereas it felt like Liberty Falls had quite a few. Etherella, the Vault, the Dancing Zombies, the Bowling, the Candles, the Mangler Cars. The Tomb has a lot of simple ones where you can get yourself a max ammo or a double points by shooting a couple of things, but Liberty Falls actually had good side Easter eggs. This was marketed as such, but it doesn't feel like that's the case. I probably haven't seen every Easter egg in the game, so maybe I'm wrong on this. I'm just extremely disappointed. In terms of my rankings for Black Ops 6 Zombies maps, it goes Terminus, Liberty Falls, the Tomb, and then Citadel de Mor, which may sound crazy, but at least the Tomb has a couple of areas that really stand out. The Henges and the Dark Ether especially. With Citadel de Mor, Treyarch had the perfect location you could ever ask for, a castle. We've seen what they did with Dreisendrache. That's the ideal location for a zombies map that comes around once every, 10 years? If that. They're probably never going to do a castle again, but for me it felt like they squandered it. The map looks really dull. I don't think they achieved any particular atmosphere with it. It doesn't have any specific standout locations, and when the map is a castle, you've got this amazing location, and then half of it takes place underground, and then the other half of the map takes place in a town, you're not utilising the actual castle. I was so disappointed with that, and so for that reason, the Tomb, for me, feels like a bit more of an appeasing map to play, especially with the Dark Ether, which does look cool. However, that doesn't mean it's anywhere near a great zombies map, but for the standard of modern day zombies, it's probably half decent, and I think that's where we are now. I've kind of come to accept that this is just Call of Duty Zombies at this point. If Treyarch can't get that wow factor back with 4 years of development time, there's not a single map in Black Ops 6. Terminus is kind of close, but we're now halfway through this game's life cycle in terms of DLC maps, and when they've had 4 years to develop it, more than any other zombies game previously, and I'm still not loading into a map and saying, wow, this is insane. I'm not getting that magical goosebumpy feeling from it, which I haven't had ever since Black Ops 4. Cold War was the beginning of modern day zombies, when the gameplay system totally changed along with the maps. I just feel like with them having 4 years development time, if they couldn't get it right in this game, then they're never gonna get it right again. And when I say get it right, Treyarch may have achieved exactly what they wanted to with Black Ops 6. Maybe this is exactly how they wanted it to feel, play and look, but it's just not what I recognise Call of Duty Zombies as. If Black Ops 6 released as the first ever COD Zombies, if nothing existed before it, World at War, etc., if this was the first Zombies mode I ever played, I don't think I would have fallen in love with it. I don't think it would have built up the community that it has now. The reason why it's so big is because of World at War, Black Ops 1, 2, 3, and 4 to a certain extent. Because they made maps where you would load in and say, wow, this is really cool. Zombies doesn't do that anymore, which is okay if that's what Treyarch are going for, and I think to a certain extent, they have to be right. They've been following this path for such a long time, so maybe they are doing it right in terms of what they're trying to make, but being 100% genuine, I can't help but feel it's lost what made it unique. It doesn't have that anymore. There is no wow factor in zombies. It's still good, but it's not special.